And thank you for joining us here this afternoon as our city grieves loss of incredible innocent life in our community. Been thinking a lot about 9-year-old Demetrius and his 6-year-old sister, London. And as I was putting my 11-year-old to bed last evening and dropping her off at school this morning, these little ones and their families were on my mind. Thinking about these little ones and the children throughout this community that are our collective responsibility. Thinking of this holiday season and this 6 and 9-year-old, what were some of their favorite stories, books, games? What was on their list for Santa come Christmas? Our kids, Demetrius and London, may not have been ours biologically or legally, but they are our kids. And this community has lost because of their deaths. Tragic violence. What have we lost, and what are we willing to fight for? We cannot allow ourselves to become desensitized, numb. It can never be normal for 6 and 9-year-olds to die in this community. Violence and homicides are unacceptable. Babies facing violent deaths in our city cannot be tolerated. And I need each and every one of you to step up and do your part. We are fighting for the soul of our city. I need everyone to join me in doing 2 things. First of all, as a person of faith, I ask you to join me and pray. Pray for the family of Demetrius and London and other victims that we've lost this year. I ask for you to pray for the other law enforcement officer, a U.S. Marshal, shot just this morning in our city. I ask you to pray for our officers and paramedics who last night rendered aid immediately to 2 dying children. They will carry that for the rest of their lives. Pray for those first responders that are on runs right now in our city. And I ask for you to pray for healing, health, and safety for our community. But the second thing I'm asking everyone to do is to act. There are some details, as the detective will share with us here in a few minutes, that have come forward about last night's shooting. We know people know more, and there's more information out there that can help us get these violent monsters off the street before they kill other children. We need your help. You can do it anonymously to protect yourself, your identity, and your family, but we need you to step up with this investigation and many other investigations of violent crime that are still open and ongoing in our community. I'd like you to consider, as a faith leader, joining our expanded chaplain corps. The Assistant Chief Potts is helping to grow and strengthen in the years ahead. And potentially, as the reserves come back into place under the leadership of Chief Bryant, stepping up to serve in that capacity. If you're a faith leader, welcoming in at-risk youth into your congregations, your synagogues, to help them with all of the violence they're seeing and to help them get on the right path towards safety, wholeness, restoration, healing. I ask those in the community to raise your hand and volunteer as a mentor for at-risk youth. And for our business leaders, I ask them to specifically hire young people from our community. Not any one of us can do everything, but all of us can do something. We cannot police our way out of this. This is not the safety director and the police chief job to fix this crisis of violence in our community and communities around the country. It's our job, and each and every one of us have a role to play in that. I'd like to turn things over to our safety director, Robert Clark.
Today is a somber day in the city of Columbus because we have lost 2 of our children. We have lost 2 of our children to senseless violence committed by cowards. We understand that we are in a very unique era of random and senseless violence against those in our community, perpetrated by those in our community. I shared with the mayor today that I refuse, and I repeat, refuse to get used to the feeling that I have today. I intend to never be used to this feeling of losing our children. As the son of a murdered father, as a father, and as the director of public safety, I take it personal that we lost 3 lives yesterday and all the lives that we have lost this year. I take that personally because as the son of a murdered father, I know what it feels like to have that empty chair at the Christmas table. There will be empty chairs in our community this Christmas. I am so proud to stand before you this afternoon and to represent the women and men who work for the Division of Police, who are still working this case since last night because they understand the significance and the importance of their work. I am proud of the work that Chief Bryant and Assistant Chief Potts are completely dedicated to. I know they were out late last night and they were there early this morning when yet another law enforcement officer was injured in the line of duty. My friends, that is leadership. To be out there, to be engaged, to be compassionate. You've heard from the mayor on many occasions, and myself on many occasions, there are a multitude of things that we are trying to do. We intend to hire 170 police officers this coming year. We have a class graduating in January of 40 officers. But that will not be enough. In and of itself, that is not the only part of the solution. The programming that we have in place, like group violence intervention, is only a part of the solution. We need your help. We need your participation. We need you to not treat this as normal day in the city of Columbus. This feeling of losing our children cannot become normalized. And I echo the sentiments of the mayor as a man of faith and as a father that hits hard when we lose our children or lose anyone in our communities. Money will not buy our way out of this. We cannot arrest our way out of this. We need collaboration. We need faith-based leaders to collaborate with the Division of Police, the Division of Fire, and other services within the city to bring the health, healing, and restoration that we not only need and want, but demand in our communities. That is where we are today as we close out 2021. There's a family today and a community today that is trying to figure out how she is going to bury her children. That is the reality of where we are. The officers who are standing behind me, who you will hear from, they are adamantly and aggressively pursuing this investigation because they understand the significance of their work, and I am proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with those women and men who are doing that work. There is no way that we will relent. It will never stop we will continue to pursue. We will continue to lend every resource at our disposal, and then some, to catch the cowards who are responsible for the tragedies that happened last night. I'd like to now turn it over to Chief Bryant so that she is able to share what the Division of Police is doing and what her dedicated personnel are doing on this tragic case. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The mayor and the director, they said it all. 3 people lost their lives yesterday. A mother, Brittany, she lost her children, 6-year-old London and 9-year-old Demetrius. That should never have happened. This was not a random act of violence. This was a targeted act of violence. This should never have happened. A mother should be preparing to wrap Christmas presents for her child, but instead, she has to figure out how she's going to bury her children. Again, I'm gonna say this one more time. This was not a random act of violence. Someone knows something. The violence that we're experiencing in our city right now, it should touch the core of each and every one of us. Each and every one of us should feel this violence. We can't do it alone. The police can't do it alone. We are consistently coming up with initiatives to be proactive, consistently coming up with initiatives to apprehend violent offenders. But again, we cannot do this work alone. We need your help. We need the public to be the voices of our victims. We need the public to be the voices of these 2 children, London and Demetrius. We need you to be their voices. See something, say something. Speak up. No matter how small or insignificant you think you may have witnessed or something you know, it could help solve this case. There's no such thing as a small or insignificant piece of evidence. See something, say something. We need you to speak up. Help us. Help this family. We're going to curb this violence in our city, and we're going to do it together as a community. The police department, we're dedicated and we're committed. The police officers, they see things that no one should have to see daily, but yet they continue to get up every day, put that uniform on, and come to work to protect and to serve. If you see something, you have to say something. We're imploring that you speak up. I want to bring Detective Kelly up. He's the lead detective on this case, and he's been working it relentlessly since he's been assigned this case, so he can give you more information. Thank you.
My name is Detective Kelly. I'm the lead investigator on this homicide, or this group of homicides. I apologize for for how I look today. Obviously, it's been a long night. What I want to do is give everybody a quick briefing on where we're at with the investigation. Obviously, I'm not going to divulge everything. I'm not going to divulge things that would hamper the case or that would cause us to take a step back. The reason we don't do that is because the families deserve better, the children deserve better, and we are going to find the people that did this. We were notified of this, as a homicide unit, we were notified of this case at about 6:45, 7 o'clock last night. We were told initially that 3 people had been shot in the area of 6652 Kodiak. We responded. When we arrived, we were told that the medics had pronounced all 3 of the victims as deceased at 6:45. As we got to the scene, we were told that there were children involved. Being a homicide detective, being a police officer in general, you see a lot of bad scenes. I can tell you that this one was different. London, the 6-year-old little girl, was beautiful, absolutely beautiful little girl. Her brother, Demetrius, same thing. that takes a toll on the officers. That causes people outside of the police department to step up, and that's exactly what has happened. This morning I've received support and calls from different federal agencies. The prosecutor's office, we've received a lot of tips and phone calls from the community, the public. We are formulating leads and suspects at this time. I'm not going to go into how we're formulating those, but we are making progress with that. We have had several, like I said, federal agencies, prosecutor's office, all step up because they want to find the people that did this. The chief is absolutely correct. All the evidence that we have at the scene indicates that this is not a random act. It does appear to be a targeted assassination, and there's no other way to say it. Multiple shell casings located at scene. The evidence we have at the scene absolutely indicates that this was a targeted assassination. I will provide my phone number for anybody in the community that wants to reach out with information. What I am asking the community for, somebody knows who did this. This does not occur without people talking about it. Might be a family member, it might be a friend, it might be somebody else that you're familiar with. You would not hesitate to call had you been on that scene last night and seen those two kids in the state they were in. I'm going to provide my phone number. My phone number is 614-778-9706. That's my cell phone number. I keep it on me all the time. I will answer it anytime that somebody calls with information on this case. If you don't have information on this case, or if you don't want to call me, you can contact Crime Stoppers, or you can contact our general homicide line, which is 614-645-4730. If you have information on this case, this is the time everybody talks about. This is when we have to start healing, when we have to start coming together. This is the time to do that. And I'm the person that is going to find the people that did this along with the rest of the homicide unit. So we need your help as a community to do that. Somebody knows what happened, and we need to find that out. Thank you.
London and Demetrius cannot speak for themselves. This community has people who can speak up for them and bring forward information to get these violent criminals off our streets, to make sure this doesn't happen to another one of our community's kids. We are in a battle for our city's soul. And I need each and every one of us to step up and do our part. What questions can we take from you all this afternoon? Lacey?
We started the year with the loss of two beautiful little girls. Here we are again, the loss of two innocent children. What can you as a mayor, what can the city do to make sure we don't repeat this again next year and have the loss of some tragic innocent lives?
Well, I think first things first, we need to get these folks off the street that killed these children. Detective Kelly and his team, we've shared the phone numbers, we shared the information. We need these folks off the street immediately. And as the director and the chief spoke to as well, there are a number of things that we are doing under their leadership. We have created a new comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy that takes a very holistic approach, public health, recreation, parks. We're making the biggest investment in both police and fire in the city's history. It's a comprehensive approach because we need to solve this as a community. The violence we're seeing in this city and cities around the country, we've never seen the likes of before. And it requires new strategies, new techniques, and new tools. And we're committed to doing that.
Kelly, if you could give us just a few more details. Can you tell us the relationship between the two children and the male victim? Also, if you could tell us how many shots were fired? Was this gang related? What do you know more?
The two children were siblings. Demetrius and London were siblings, and we're focusing on the children in this press conference. That's what everybody is concerned about. Don't forget there was this 22-year-old male is a victim as well, and I'm working just as hard to solve the case for him and his family as I am for these two children. I'm not going to get into how many rounds were fired. I can tell you that a lot of rounds were fired. With the question about is this gang related, we're still looking into everybody's background. We want to find out everything we can as far as is anybody looked at as a target. We're looking into all of that right now, and there's a whole team of analysts and detectives that are doing nothing but that. The rounds that were fired were targeted specifically at that car that the victims were in at the time of the incident. Does that answer all your questions?
Do you think there's any chance that whoever pulled the trigger knew there were children in that car?
That question I can't answer. I don't know that yet. There is, anytime we go to a scene, anytime we respond to a homicide scene, we have a team of detectives that look for nothing but cameras. We look around the areas for cameras. We're canvassing that area right now, again, looking for more cameras. Hopefully we will get some sort of video that will show us what exactly happened. So I'm hoping that will shed some light on that.
Could you characterize this as a retaliatory killing? I mean, you said it was targeted.
If we don't know the background, we can't decide if it is retaliatory. I can tell you based on the evidence at the scene, what we saw at the scene, the physical evidence that night, it was not a drive-by. It was not somebody walking down the street firing random shots. This was a targeted attack at that vehicle. Whether whether they knew there were children in the car, I don't know. I would like to think as a human being that they did not, but I can't guarantee that.
For the mayor and the chief, I'm sensing sort of a theme here about coming forward. The detective has given out his phone number. The chief has encouraged people to see something, say something. You said that violence like this won't be tolerated. You guys wouldn't be making that message unless you had trouble getting people to come forward. So can you talk about the frustration as a whole with that attitude that you have street justice, you have people who won't say anything, you have violence that continues to go on unabated?
So I will say this, there are a lot of community members that do step forward, and we're very appreciative of the information that they provide. We're talking to specific people. There are people that know a lot about the crimes that occur in this city. We want them to speak up, because the one thing I can tell you is this. Today or yesterday, it was London and Demetrius. Tomorrow or the next week, it could be your loved ones. It could be your sister, your brother, your child. It's imperative that we speak up and make sure that we get the shooters, our violent offenders, off the street before they have an opportunity to affect another family like this. So we do have a lot of community members that speak up, so I don't want to put the narrative out there that no one is speaking up or no one is helping, but I'm talking to a specific group of people, the people that know what happened. We want you to speak up. People that feel like snitching is a bad thing. It's not a snitching. It's about respecting your community and having compassion for the families that are going through what they're going through and speaking up and allowing us to give them some justice. This isn't snitching. This is humanity. That's what this is.
Chief, I'm wondering if you're concerned about any retaliation shooting because of the incident last night.
We're always concerned about that. At this point, we can't give any specific information because we don't have the specifics, but what I will tell you is we would absolutely love to be able to bring these people into our custody before anything happens.
Is this a situation where you think you will not be able to solve this without someone coming forward with more?
The majority of cases that are solved is are solved with the help of the community. So I'm not saying that we would not be able to solve it. Hopefully through technology, through evidence, we would be able to, but it never hurts. It never hurts to have that information from the community.
You know, it sounds like there isn't necessarily a policy initiative. There isn't a series of arrests that will abate that. So is there a sense of frustration from civic leaders that you have to lean on community? You couldn't do it without community help.
We have a lot of things in place, technology, evidence-based, that we can solve our crimes, but it never hurts, again, like I said, to have the information from the community, because that makes our case stronger. The one thing that we want to do, we're not just interested in arresting someone, we're interested in following the entire case through prosecution. We want to be able to make the case as strong as possible so the person can be brought to justice and actually be convicted.
Kelly, I'm wondering, do you know how many suspects you're looking for yet?
The information I've gotten so far from the scene is I'm looking for at least 2 suspects. And that's coming from the physical evidence of the rounds, the shell casings, the strikes on the car. Whether or not there were more than that were involved, I couldn't tell you at this point, but I know at least 2. And to your question about the community, we take community input and we take calls on every single one of our cases. There is the vast majority of the community members out there that want to help. And when we're in this together with the community that we're out there trying to help, so we don't want to rely just on technology or social media or any of that. We want to rely on the community, and in my opinion, that's where you get the best information. You can get technology and you can get stuff off the computer all day long, but when you get the community that wants to police itself by helping you solve a case, that's where you get this, that we're in this together, and that's what we want them to do.
This is a targeted account. Are you getting information that leads you to think that there was some type of disagreement between suspects and
At this point, we don't know. What I'm saying about the targeted attack is the fact that that's what the physical evidence at the scene shows us. It's very, very obvious when you have a drive-by or somebody that is spraying rounds out of a car or while walking. And it's very different when you have a very targeted strike pattern on a vehicle, and that's what we're seeing.
Detective Kelly, I'm wondering, there's been a record number of homicides this year. Your team has covered a lot of them. I can only imagine how tough last night was. How are the rest of the detectives doing?
The Columbus Police Homicide Unit is unlike any unit I've ever been in. They are exceptional. The people in that unit, being from the detectives all the way up, they do that for a specific reason. You don't go into homicide by accident. You know going into it that you were going to get that call at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the evening, and you're still going to be there 26 hours later at some point. It does take a toll on you as a detective, as an officer, as anybody that has to deal with these kind of scenes. But these guys that I work with in that unit are exceptional, and they're doing the right things for the right reasons.